Section 4.4 talks about graphs of the secant and cosecant functions. If we first look at the secant function, its short notation is f of x equals secx, secant of x. Secant x is not always defined. Secant of x will be undefined whenever x is odd multiples of pi over 2. Therefore, domain is every angle possible except the angle cannot be equal to the odd multiples of pi over 2. And the range for the secant function is it's negative infinity to negative 1. There will be a gap from negative 1 to positive 1, and then continues again 1 to infinity. The reason for all this is if you look at the y values of the sum angles for secant of x, secant of negative pi over 2 is undefined. If you remember, secant is reciprocal of cosine. Since cosine of negative pi over 2 is equal to 0, 1 over 0 will be undefined. Similarly, cosine of pi over 2 is 0, so secant of pi over 2, which is 1 over 0, will be also undefined. So then negative pi over 4 is going to have a secant value of root 2. Positive pi over 2, pi over 4 is going to have the y value of root 2. And then this will be a 0. Again, 3 pi over 2 will return an undefined value for secant of x. It is important that you are familiar with the secant of x graph. This is the gap that secant of x is going to have. From negative 1 to positive 1, there will be nothing going on. And then the asymptotes of the secant function will be at these 2 points. And then this is what the calculator is going to give you as the graph of secant of x. We need to remember that the graph of secant of x is discontinuous for all the odd multiples of pi over 2. Therefore, whenever you have like 1 times pi over 2 or 3 times pi over 2, 5 times pi over 2, the secant of x is going to have a vertical asymptote. Secant of x has no x-intercepts. Its period is 2 pi, and it will have no amplitude since there is no minimum or maximum point. And secant of x is an even function just like the cosine function. The other function we're going to analyze is cosecant of x. It's very similar to secant of x, but cosecant is reciprocal of sine. So it's going to become undefined whenever the sine is 0. So sine is a 0 when x is 0. Sine is a 0 when x is pi. Sine is a 0 when x is 2 pi. So therefore, cosecant of x will be undefined at x equals 0, at x equals pi, and x equals 2 pi. And you can just find the key identical, some key angles and their corresponding y values for cosecant of x. And then this is what cosecant of x graph looks like, very similar to sine of x graph, because it has the gap again from negative 1 to positive 1. And this is what the cosecant of x looks like. A cosecant of x graph is again a discontinuous function, and it will have a vertical asymptote every multiples of pi. So 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi will be all vertical asymptotes for cosecant of x. There is no x-intercept, and its period is 2 pi. It doesn't have an amplitude, and cosecant of x is an odd function because cosecant is reciprocal of sine, and sine is an odd function, therefore cosecant is an odd function as well. And never forget that cosecant is 1 over sine of x, secant of x is 1 over cosine of x, and this is the end of section 4.4.